All right, today we're going to go over the material in Chapter 12, but we're going to sort of do it backwards. You see that for all of you, I gave you a handout this morning. On the first 3 pages are basically all the comments for the program we're going to make, and if you turn it over and you look at the back of it, that's what we're going to build. All right? Now, there's going to be a bunch of new controls in here that we've never used before. With a couple of these, you know, this is not a warning or anything like that, but please don't try to get ahead of me, because it's kind of weird when you set up a couple of these controls. All right? So it'll be much easier if we just basically all work together. So, just so you know, what I emailed to you this morning. Great. Okay. What I emailed to you this morning was this. It's got these same comments in it that you see right here. So you've got a text file with all those comments. You've got a PNG file, and the PNG file has got a picture of what the final product will look like. It's going to take up the entire screen, the way that we're going to build it. Okay? All right? You've got that, you've got this, and you've got the study guide for Chapter 12. So you've got all of that stuff right there. All right, so we're going to go through, ideally at least today, and it may take most of the class period, but we're going to go over as much of this as we can today. So to start with, I'd like you to get into Visual Basic, get into C# Visual Studio, and let's start a new project. It will be a GUI project. Save it where you always save things, please. All right, so I'm going to save mine on the desktop. Yeah, whatever. And I'd like you to please call it one word, Joe's Auto. You can see on here that on the back, that's what we're making, is we're going to create a bill for Joe's Automotive. All right, so we're just going to call it Joe's Auto, one word, and it's going to be a Windows Forms application. You do not want a console for this. All right? Okay. So, click OK. You've done this before, nothing new here. All right, first thing I'm going to do is give myself a lot of room on the screen, because we're going to need about, I'm going to guess, about that much, if not more, for what we're doing. So in other words, make this pretty doggone big. All right? So we're going to go through and do this the natural way that we've done this. In other words, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and change the name of my form to Form Joe's Auto. Remember, we can't have spaces in there. All right, so I changed the name from Form 1 to Form Joe's Auto, and I'm going to change the text to this application will go over the controls discussed in Chapter 12. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly that, but something like that. You can see it up there. This application will go over the controls discussed in Chapter 12. We probably won't hit every control, but we'll hit the major ones. It's the old, 80-20 rule. I'll give you the 20% of the tools that you'll use 80% of the time. We will talk about some of the other ones as well as we go on. All right? So the first thing to discuss with you here, if you look up on the screen, because these are new controls, all right? You may or may not be able to tell it from the picture here. I don't know. But can you kind of see there's a box here, 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 and here? Everybody see that? Those are group controls. So we're going to use those to group 3 radio buttons, 3 check boxes, 2 check boxes, 2 labels, and 2 text boxes. Now, the key thing, just so you know this, you create the group control first, then you create the other stuff inside of it. If you do it the other way, so let's say, I don't want to do it that way. So you create these 3 radio buttons all by themselves. Then you create a group control, then you drag the things in. Then typically what happens is they're not associated with the group control. So if you drag the group control around, these won't move with them. You don't want that. And if you say, I don't understand what you're talking about, then just follow my lead, if you would, please. And as long as you do that, there shouldn't be any kind of problem. All right? Josh, we'll give you a second to catch up. We're starting a new GUI application that we're calling Joe's Auto. So if you look here, we won't build it yet. We'll give them a chance to catch up. But if you look, some of the stuff that we are going to discuss in here, all right? So some of the stuff, we already know what buttons are, but you're going to add check boxes today, all right? We won't probably have a combo box. We've already done labels. We've already done a little bit with list boxes. Just try to see what's in here that... But I think most of you are at least familiar. You filled out some kind of form or something in your life where I think you know what check boxes are. I think you know what radio buttons are. And those are, for lack of better words, those are going to kind of be the highlight of what we're going to talk about in here. All right, just so you know that. You don't have to do this. I've done this before, but if you look up on the screen, I don't like that color, so I'm just going to change the color of my form. You can do that. You don't have to do that. If you like that color, keep that color. There we go. And again, the idea is when we get all done, our interface will look something like this. You may have to do a little bit of tweaking to get it to look that way. All right, just so you know that. Everybody hear that? All right. So you might have to do a little bit of work. Some of the stuff is going to be, well, that's not exactly what I thought would happen, etc. All right. And now that I think of it too, there's that graphic in there. I'm going to have to either show you where that is or find that and give that to you too. So, all right. What I'm attempting to do here is not only introduce a couple of controls to you, and that is the first thing, all right, but we're going to go back and reinforce some of the stuff we've talked about in the last several chapters. Not classes or inheritance, all right, but we will talk a little bit about exceptions in here, all right, and we'll go back to some of the stuff we've done earlier, such as just knowing how to set the tab order and how to modularize programs, etc. All right? Now, you know as well as I do, if you take a look up here, it really and truly, in the end, will not matter the order in which we put in most of these controls. All right? But what I'm going to do, all right, is I'm going to build it like this. I'm going to put in these, then 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 I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, then these, and then this. All right? And I want to do these first because these are the new controls that are in here. And then I want to do these right away. We won't have the calculate, won't be working yet, but I want to do the clear to make sure that everything that's in here is set up okay. All right, the exit's going to be the same kind of exit we've been doing. That'll probably at least get us to the break. All right. Then when we come back, we'll figure out the calculate. Now, you're all smart people. If you take a look up on the screen here, imagine that I was running this program right now. And if that was checked, this says right now, the only thing that's checked in here, the only thing that's set is that. So right now, our bill would be $25. Should make sense to everybody. What we're going to do is we're going to say that everything that gets worked on here, everything, gets taxed at 8%. All right? Well, $25 times 8% is $2. So right now, the whole bill would be $27. Does that make sense? All right? And these are radio buttons, meaning we can only choose one of these. So you can either do an oil change or a chassis lube or an oil and lube together. All right? But you can only do one of them. These are check boxes. So you can do none of them, any one, any two, or all three. Same thing. You can, since they're check boxes, none, either one, or both. Okay? You may or may not have this set up, and this is a little bit quirky. You'll see this when we get to that point. And labor is done at $55 an hour. So if I put in there for labor, if I put in, for example, 10, that means I'm going to have 10 hours worth of labor. So what will happen when I do my bill is that 10 will turn into 550. Does that make sense? All right. So if we fill up everything, so you go in there and let's say you got a piece of garbage car and you need all this stuff done, you could easily have a bill of well over $1,000. Does that make sense? All right. So that's what we're going to be doing. All right. So then taking it from the top, this is where we are. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to go to your All Windows Forms in your toolbox, and I want you to find the control, bless you, that says Group Box right there. All right? And I'm going to go and put it right there. Make it a little bit bigger, but about right there. Okay? Now, it's not that, again, that I have to do it in this way, but this is the way in which I am doing it. All right? So the first thing that I want to do is, by default, we're going to have 4 group boxes. And if we don't change them, they're going to be called Group Box 1, Group Box 2, Group Box 3, and Group Box 4, which are bad names. All right? So this first one is going to hold our oil and lube information. So the first thing we're going to do is change the name to Group Box Oil Lube. That's the first thing. All right? Then I'm going to go down, and there actually is a text component here, and I'm going to change that to oil, ampersand, ampersand, lube. All right? And that should change my text in here to oil and lube. All right? Again, I'm purposely building this really, really incrementally. You'll see why as we go on in here. All right? So that's the first thing. Now, I want to go and I want to put in those 3 radio buttons right here. So I'm going to go down in my toolbox, and I'm going to find radio button, and I'm going to drag the first one in. Then I'm going to come in, and I'm going to go to radio button again, and I'm going to drag another one in. And then I'm going to do it one last time. So those are now my 3 radio buttons. Now, if you look up on the screen here, if that's hard for you to see, and maybe it is, then I didn't do this on mine, but if you want to, then go over your background color and make that a different background color. All right, if that makes it easier for you to work with, then do that. All right? So far we've come in and we've got a group box. In that group box, we changed the name of the control, we changed the name of the text, and we added 3 radio buttons. That's right where we are right now. So I'm going to click on the first radio button, and I'm going to do the same kind of thing. I'm going to go up and change the name from radio button 1 to radio button oil change. All right. And I'm going to change the text so that the text says, instead of radio button 1, it says oil change, then in parentheses, $25. Oops, that wasn't very good. Try that again. Oil change. Now, is it pretty obvious when you take a look up there what I just did? All right, again, I did two things here. I changed the name from radio button 1 to radio button oil change, and I changed the text from radio button 1 to oil change, $25. All right? Again, later if you want to, all right, if you want, you don't have to do this, but later if you want to do this, you could always bold this, change the font, etc. I don't care about that stuff right now. All right? So the second one here, I'm going to change this. In fact, I want to make sure I use the same names because I've already got my code done. So let me double check here. Radio button oil change, radio button lube, radio button combo. Okay. Not great names, but they'll work. All right. This second one then, I'm going to change the name from radio button 2 to radio button lube. And I'm going to change the text on it from radio button 2 to chassis lube $20. Again, it should be pretty obvious when you take a look there what I've just done. And the third one that's here, the third one, I'm going to go to that one, and I'm going to change the name from radio button 3 to radio button combo, and I'm going to change the text on there to oil ampersand ampersand lube, and that is $35. So basically I've got the same text here and here. If you don't like that, then change it to something else as long as it reflects what it is you're doing here. All right? Any questions on that? Any problems with that? All right, then let's go over and we'll do the next one that goes to the right. So I'm again going to find a group box. I'm again going to drag it up over here. All right, I want them to be about the same size so it looks fairly uniform. All right, that looks pretty good right there. Again, you don't have to do this, but I will change the color so it's at least easier for you to see. Bless you. And this is going to have our miscellaneous stuff. So I'm going to call this Group Box MISC for Group Box Miscellaneous, and the text will just be MISC. All right, so that's that. Now, in here, I don't want to put in radio buttons. I want to put in check boxes. So if you'd come up here and find checkbox, we're going to do the same thing. Drag in the first one. Drag in the second one. Drag in the third one. All right? And let me double check again. My names, I think I know what they are. That should be checkbox inspection, checkbox muffler replace, checkbox tire rotation. No, that's not bad. All right. So we added our second group box. In here, this one is going to be named checkbox inspection. And the text will be inspection, and that is $35. The second one will be, it's a muffler replacement. and that's $150. Looks like this isn't big enough to hold that, so I'll have to make that a little bit wider. And the name of this one will be checkbox muffler replace. All right, and then finally my third one that's right here will be called checkbox tire rotation. And the text will be tire rotation $40. All right, so there's my first two. And then I want to put two more of these same things underneath here. All right, so again, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to grab my group box, and I'm going to put one right underneath the one I just put in. And this one, well, I've got to get stronger glasses, that's all I can tell you. This one is going to say flushes, and there'll be radiator and transmission underneath it. All right, so this is going to be called group box flushes. And the text for it will just be the word flushes. All right, and we're going to put two checkboxes in here. All right, and those checkboxes that we put in will be checkbox radiator and checkbox transmission. All right, so here's our first checkbox. Here's our second checkbox. Again, to make it easier for you to see, I'm going to again change the color on this just so it stands out. All right. This first one then is going to be called checkbox radiator. And the text for it will be radiator, and it looks like that is, still can't read that, $50. All right, and the next one will be called checkbox transmission. And the text for it will be transmission. And I believe that's $80. All right. Then we're going to have one last group box. We'll put that over here. And that particular group box is going to have in it the information for our parts and labor. So I'm going to call that group box parts and labor. And the text will be parts and labor. All right. And that particular checkbox, that particular group box is going to have in it a label followed by a text box, a label followed by a text box. One of the labels will be for parts. One of the labels will be for labor. Make sense? All right, so I'm going to just do them one at a time. I'm going to grab my label. I'm going to drag it right there. All right, this will become label parts. And the text that's on it will literally just say parts. with a colon. And right after that, I'm going to drop in a text box right next to it. All right, pretty obvious, I think, what we've just done there. And then I'm going to replicate that. So I'm going to grab another label. In fact, we changed the name of that. Let's change the name of this to text box parts. All right, then we're going to just replicate what we've just done. In other words, I'm going to go over to label again. I'm going to put in a label right there. That label will be called label labor. And the text that's in it will be labor with a colon. All right, and then I'm going to drop in one last text box right here. All right, and that will be, okay, I don't know what the hell happened there, but something did. That will become text box labor. All right, so I want to quickly check here and make sure I didn't, miss naming anything. And it doesn't look like I did. All right. So the next thing I want to do is I want to put in 3 buttons. And you may end up moving these around eventually, but I'm just going to put them here. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger and a little bit wider so it looks a little nicer. All right. Then I'm going to copy it and paste it twice. So button, button, button. Again, I can always move these later if I want to or need to do that. All right. And these are going to be this, what we've been using all along. In other words, this first one will be button calculate, and the text on there will be calculate. The second one will be button clear. And the text on there will just be clear. And the third one will be button exit. And the code that's on there will just be exit. All right. This is coming together. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. Ideally, if you look up on the screen for a second, please. All right. That's what we've got done, is basically the first half, right? Okay. So we're going to come in here, and this right here is what's called a list box. So we're going to create a list box, and above that list box, we're going to just put in a label that says this. And then this is what's called a picture box. Don't worry about the picture box for right now. All right? So let's put those other things in, though. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to find a list box. I'm going to go and drag that out and put it right there. And I want it to look pretty much like it does in the picture. So it's about halfway down in parts and labor, and it goes a little bit down on there. So it'll be about like this. And again, I can always move this later if I want to or need to do so. So I'm going to drag it out a little bit here and a little bit there. That looks about right. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. All right. And I think, what did I call this? List box bill. All right. So this is going to hold our bill. So it's called list box bill. Notice how it puts the name in here. When you run the program, there'll be nothing in there. That just shows you that, so it shows you the name of the control. All right. So right up above that, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put a label right above that. So I'm going to find a label. And I'm going to put the label right here. About there. That looks about right. I'm going to set the auto size property so that it's false. Drag it so it's about the same width as the, oops, I want it to be basically, come on, the same width as the list box. All right. this will be, since I call this one list box bill, how about we call this one label bill? All right. And we want the text in there to say your final bill. All right. The problem with it right now, the way that it looks, it's not terrible. However, it doesn't stand out. We want it to stand out. So let's do a couple things here. First thing, I'm going to go over to the text, to the font property rather, which is currently set to 8 point. And I'm going to change that to about 14 point and bold it. Well, that's looking better. All right. Then I'm going to go down to text align, which is down here, right underneath where we just put the text. And I'm going to change it so instead of top left, we'll put it right in the center. All right. Again, this is by no means perfect. It's not a problem. All right, but as I'm looking here, it looks like we're almost done, except I want to add one more control, and that's going to be up here. Everybody see this? That's going to be up here. And I want you to go down here, and I want you to find a picture box. Take it and drag it up, I don't know, about there. And I'm going to make it about that size. Okay, it's not perfect, but we'll make it about that size. All right. Now, because your instructor was too stupid to remember this, we're going to do this now as a class. All right. So what I'd like you to do, I can email it to you otherwise, but otherwise just go out to Google Images. And I think if I type in Joe's Auto, all right, you can find whatever one you want. I'm going to find the one, because I think it is in here, the one that you see on your picture. I might have. Does it? Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll come in here and say Joe's Foreign Automotive. Now, if you say, well, I don't like that one, can I use a different one? Yes. You may have to do some manipulation then on your own program. You understand what I'm saying? But yes, you can. All right? So right mouse click on the image, choose Save Image As, and they call it Download Ping. I'm just going to change it to Joe's Ping, and I'm going to save mine to my desktop. You can save yours wherever you want to save it. All right, I'm just going to save it right to the desktop, and I'm going to click Save. It says I already have that. Do I want to replace it? I'll tell you what, I'm going to call it Joe's 2. But my guess is you won't have one that's called Joe's. All right? Again, like I said, if you decide, oh man, I like this picture a lot better, then use that one. It really and truly isn't that big a thing. All right? Everybody get that done? Sorry about that. You found a picture you wanted to use? Okay, then go back to your program. All right? First thing I probably should do is change the name. So instead of picture box, I'm going to change that to picture box logo. Not a great name, but it's okay. Picture box logo. And let's see. Then notice where it says image. Right now it says none. Can you see this? So I'm going to click there, and I get an ellipsis that comes up. So I'm going to click the ellipsis, and it says, what do you want? All right. And now I got to remember how to do this. I think we want project resource file, and I think we want import. All right. Why don't you watch me do it to make sure I don't screw it up? So I think it's project resource file, and click import. And then when you do that, I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to find my Joe's, which is called Joe's 2. There it is. And I'm going to click OK. There it is. Okay? If you try doing that and you run into any problems, if you think I did it the way you did it and it didn't work, then raise your hand. All right? So, not a bad time to save this. Okay? And I'm just going to run it right now. It's not going to do anything, and you don't have to run yours, but I just wanted to see what it looked like. Well, you notice that's a little funky. See this? Even though it looked fine on the screen, I might have to stretch that out a bit. But the rest of it doesn't look too bad. You may not like my color combinations, but you get the idea. It's looking pretty much the way that the other one looked. So again, I know now that I can come back in here if I want to, stretch this out a little bit, maybe even stretch it down just a tad. All right. And save it, run it again, and see if it looks better or worse. Did I make it? It still doesn't look good. So I'll work on that in a little bit. All right. I'm not going to worry about that right now. Okay. Now let's just do a couple things, and then we'll take a break. All right. In fact, I'm just going to get that back there. All right. So first thing I want to do, and again, not that it's that big a thing, I want to go in and I want to set my tab order. All right. Now, if you look up on the screen here, I don't know how somebody's going to put this stuff in. All right. And you don't have to do it. If you don't like my order, you can do your own. But you should have a tab order. I'm going to set it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, something like that. Again, as long as there is some rhyme or reason to the tab order, that should be fine. All right. So view tab order 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, notice how it did. It's got 0, 1, 2, and then this should be 3. All right. And then it automatically numbered those. And I think I said I'd do that one next. That's 4, and it numbered those. 5, and it numbered those. 6, and it numbered those. 7, 8, and it looks like I can't even put anything there. That's not too bad. Again, if you don't like the way I did it, then do your own tab order. All right? And I'm telling you this right now, I just want you to realize something. That this may be a project, it may not be, but this may be a project that you decide you want to add to your portfolio at the end of the semester. All right? So, it's the end of the semester, and Evan has applied for some kind of an internship someplace, and it's for C#. So the person says, can I see an example of some of your work? So he shows them his portfolio. So the person runs it. If they run it, they may, you never know, because you never, who understands humans? That the person may start hitting the tab key, and if it's jumping all over the place on the screen, it doesn't look very professional. All right? That's the only reason I'm having you do that. All right, so we're going to, after I've done that, I'm done, so I'm going to do another view tab order. Couple more things, and then we're taking a break. First thing is, I'm going to click over in a blank spot here in the form, blank spot, and I'm going to set my accept button to button calculate, and I'm going to set my cancel button to button clear. All right, so I've got those both set. All right, then I want to go down to the bottom of the screen, and where I've got Windows state, I want to set that to center. I'm sorry, not Windows state. Start position, I want to set that to center screen, but I do want to go to Windows state at the very bottom, and I want to tell it to maximize it. So when it opens up, I want it to take up the whole window. Everybody hear that? So I'm going to go down to the very bottom here where it says Windows state, and I'm going to change it from normal to maximized. I'm again going to save all, and I'm going to run it again. And you notice now it's taking up the entire screen. Now, if I wanted to, I could now go in and manipulate this stuff, right? I could move stuff, well, I can move this way over here, etc. But I just like the way that looks. And I wanted to show you using the whole screen if you want to use the whole screen. All right? All right, I think you'd all agree right now none of this is going to work. I mean, absolutely nothing is going to work. All right? And it's 8:47. Let's see, is there anything else we want to do? Well, we're going to want to put in code for our what? Our calculate button and for our clear button, and for our exit button, right? We're going to want to put those in, all right? You already know what the code is for the exit button. I always forget it. I don't believe that I keep forgetting it, but I do. So I'm going to find it. I know that it's in here. Of course, whenever I try to find something in front of you, I can't, so I'm going to just grab it from another program. That's fine. In fact, I think I've got it in this one, so. All right, we are eventually in here. If you look up on the screen, you can't see it because it got cut off, but we're going to put in menu options. All right, so the reason I'm telling you that is that when we come in here, rather than putting the code inline right in this button, we're just going to have a routine that's going to be called exit program, and we'll put that down here. Private void exit program, and now I can paste that in. If you say you did that too fast, there's exit program. What, doesn't like something? Probably because I've got it in there twice. So that's what we have. Hopefully that's big enough that you can all read it from where you're sitting, but that's got everything in there. I think I'll go till 9 because we can get just about all of it done then. We'll get this button done and the clear button done. Okay. Again, as we're working on this stuff, if something doesn't make sense, please stop me. Because if you don't, I have to take for granted that you know what I'm talking about. All right? You can at least understand what I'm talking about in here. All right? So that's the code for the exit button. Again, if you look at the back of your page, all right, because some of you are still typing, which is fine. But what we want to have happen when you click the clear button, there's a lot of stuff to have happen. All right, I'm going to go right back to this, but please look on the screen. I'll go right back to this, I promise. But if you look, what do we want? We want that to be cleared out, that to be cleared out, that cleared, 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 that cleared. All right, I don't know how many things it is, 3, 6, 8, 10, 11 different things to clear. All right, so we want all that stuff to happen. So there's a little bit of work that we have to do in order to be able to do our clear routine. Now, hopefully that makes sense to everybody. All right, the reason I'm telling you that is in the past, when we have put code in, typically there's just been a couple things that we wanted to work on when we were clearing something. Now, there's going to be more work that we have to do. That's all. I'm trying to come in here and really, really modularize this. Everybody hear what I said? I'm trying to really modularize this. And what I mean is, again, if you look up on the screen, I'm going to call 5 different routines. One routine to clear all this out, one routine to clear all this out, one routine to clear all this, one routine to clear all this, and one routine to clear that. I don't have to do it that way. But again, by doing that, by taking it and fully modularizing it, if I were to have a problem with the code later, I should be able to jump right into where that problem is. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. In a true, well-written program, all right, if you've got an interface that looks like this, technically you should have, at a minimum, this stuff should be done in one routine, that should be done in one routine, that should be done in one routine, that should probably be done in two routines, because they're two different things. But these things are together. So you could say that would be one routine. You could put this into two different routines, or three different routines, because it's three different things. Two different routines and two different routines. That's how we're going to do it.
Is it possible to do it all in one?
Yes.
It's not a good idea?
No, it's not a good idea, because if you have a problem, then you have to dig through the same thing. In an ideal world, what's going to happen is you want to write all your routines so that each routine could be seen on a screen. That's about 20 lines of code. You know, I've had people, you know, because they think they're real funny. They said, hey, Jeff, you know, I know what you said about writing all your routines. You know, mine's too big, but it's not anymore. So they do that. I mean, that's not, I'm sorry, it's sort of cute or whatever you'd say, but it's not, it's stupid, for lack of better words. So we're not going to do that. All right, so we've got our button code. I'm taking for granted everybody's had a chance to put that code in. All right, so now we're going to move over to here to our clear button, and we're just going to call this clear all, and we'll write that routine in just a minute. We'll write that right underneath it. So private void clear all. All right. Again, that's going to call 5 different routines. Did you hear me? I'm going to get 5 error messages because I haven't written any of those 5 routines yet. So, doesn't matter the order, but I'm going to call them in order. So I'm going to call clear oil lube, and then I'm going to call clear flushes, and then I'm going to call clear miscellaneous, and then I'm going to call clear others, and others is parts and labor. So I could have said clear parts and labor. Maybe that would have been a better name. In fact, it is a better name than others. So let's change that from others to parts and labor. And clear totals. In fact, the totals is our bill. So I'm going to call that clear bill. All right. So if you look up on the screen here, what are we calling? Clear oil lube. So that's the first thing. Clear flushes. So that's the second thing. Clear miscellaneous. That's the third thing. Clear parts and labor. That's the fourth thing. Clear bill. That's the fifth thing. Does all that make sense? And again, go back to Josh's point. Yes, we could have written all that code in line right here. It's not really that much code. But what ends up happening when you create a complex project a lot of times is stuff will be added, more features will be added, more features will be added, more features will be added. Pretty soon you've got a routine that instead of breaking it up into 10 routines, or maybe 50 routines that are 10 lines each, now you've got one routine that's got 500 lines in it. And don't think that doesn't happen, all right, because it does more often than not. All right, so I'm going to start writing these. And I'll tell you what, it's 8:56, so why don't, it's 8:57. So let's take a break. Let's come back at 10 after 9, and when we do, we'll just continue on from right here.